guys, welcome back to my channel, to Tangled Tales. I'm trying a different intro because I feel like it's kind of stupid for me to introduce myself by name when my name is in the channel heading. Let me know which one you guys think sounds better. If it's my channel, Tangled Tales, just hello. I don't really know. I'm trying something different and it's not working so far. Yeah, anyways, today I'm doing a recent reads video, and if I look extremely hot and if you hear the ceiling fan, it's because I am really hot, and the ceiling fan is necessary because it is extremely hot outside, though it wasn't as bad as yesterday. Yesterday was terrible. I think it hit 95, 96. It was some abysmal number like that. I know. Anybody who's watching this who lives down south, you're probably laughing at me right now, but you know, it's not supposed to get this hot here. Where I live, it's not supposed to get into 95. You know, most of the time, like in the winter, it's like 20. So, you know, and there's snow outside. So, yeah, I don't do heat anyways, and yeah, it's just gross. Anyways, I'm just now going to get into the video, but anyways, that's why I look hot. That's why my hair is up instead of down like I normally do, because I don't feel like frying to death for a video. So, anyways, we're just gonna jump right into the books. I have an interesting assortment here. So anyways, we're just gonna jump into the first one that I don't have a ton to say, and that is the continuation of a series I'm reading, and that is this title. This title is gonna kill me. Rurouni Kenshin, I believe is how you say it. I probably still said that wrong. Anyways, this is a manga series. It's like a historical manga series, and I read volumes 2 through 5. This is the 5th volume that I'm holding up here. I've read up to that amount. Okay. I've read volumes 2, 3, 4, and 5. I rated all of them 4 stars, and I'm really enjoying this series. And the characters are really growing on me. I think volume 5 is my favorite so far. I don't know, it's just the way the characters are interacting and their dynamics with each other. It's just really heartwarming just seeing how they're forming this kind of found family thing, and I really enjoy it. I will say, if you are more a sensitive reader and don't like a lot of blood and violence and stuff, do not read this series. It is very bloody. I mean, it's not... I kind of have rated it on my Goodreads reviews, which, by the way, if you want to hear further thoughts on any of these books that I'm talking about, see content, stuff like that, I will leave all my Goodreads reviews linked down in the description below, so you can go and check those out for further details that I may forget to talk about or just don't mention for whatever reason, or content concerns. Anyways, this series I have been rating on my Goodreads reviews as around like PG-13 to R rating, with like the blood and the violence and stuff. It depends on your sensitivity to it. I would definitely call it more R. If you want a comparison of like, if you've seen panels of like Yona the Dawn, I call Yona more like PG-13 because sometimes there's blood, but it's not excessive. This sometimes can get excessive. I mean, I don't think it's to the point where it's glorifying violence. It's just kind of the nature of like, if someone's head gets cut off, that's how much blood is actually going to be there. So yeah, if you're a more sensitive reader, I would say skip this series because yeah, it's probably a little too much, a little too bloody. I am enjoying it for the characters. Yeah, I'm very interested in the way this volume ended, how it's going to continue, because of just the situation they get in, and all these people just want Kenshin to use the sword in ways that he doesn't want to anymore, and it's kind of annoying because it's kind of like, can't you guys just leave this dude to live in peace? I mean, honestly, is it that hard? But whatever. I'm really enjoying the series still, and I will be continuing. Okay. Alright, the next one I have to talk about that I read, I don't really have a lot to say. That is the Clean Fiction Summer Edition 2023. This is a review magazine for... Okay, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, this is a review magazine for clean and secular, or I mean, Christian and secular books that are clean. Let's just get that together. And they review anything from like fantasy to sci-fi to mysteries, romance, anything and everything. They mostly focus on indie and small press books. They are including more largely known press books as well, like more traditionally published ones as well. But yeah, they mainly focus on the indie and small press editions. So if you really want to find some of these books, I mentioned in videos, a lot of them are in these magazines. This is the most recent edition, and in this one, I also, because there's a short story contest in every issue, and I actually had a story in here that won. This is what it looks like. It is in the romance section. It's a fantasy romance story. I really enjoyed writing it, and basically the premise, it is they gave us this picture, and we had to write a story from it. So, yeah. But that's that one, and I'm really excited about it. Really hope people like the story. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I always love recommending, showing off this magazine. I think they do a really good job on it, and I really enjoy it. So I gave this one 5 stars. I mean, I kind of give all the issues 5 stars just because I think they're good material. Nonfiction's a little tricky like that. I never know how to, like, rate it, so to speak, but whatever. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is a series I have very mixed opinions on. So, we're just going to get into it, and I don't have pictures for... There's a few of the books in here I don't have pictures for today, so I apologize for that. But, that is the Flying Pony series by L.M. Ransom. This is the first book, Lift. Then there is Tilt is book 2, and Spin is book 3. I have very mixed opinions on this book. Anyways, what it's about. And we follow Charlotte. She and her family their uncle has moved her and her siblings to this old house in the middle of the Michigan woods. They've just moved there, and she finds an antique carousel in the woods, except this one's magical, and the carousel horses come to life, and things ensue from there. It's a very basic premise. It's pretty much all I can say about it. I really wanted to like this book because I read the first bit of it online on Amazon and stuff, and it starts off really, really well in Lift. We start off really well. It's like really mysterious, really magical, kind of spooky, and then we get further into this book, and we pretty much the good chunk of this book was pretty much us going in circles. Charlotte would ask a question about something, her uncle would or other people would refuse to answer. She'd get mad, her siblings would get mad, cycle repeats. And, like, occasionally we would actually be like, here's an answer, but that's all you get, because here's a million more questions. And she asked so many questions in this book that often you would, as the reader, you would lose track of what was going on. Which questions had been answered, which questions weren't answered. Don't know, because there were so many of them, you lost track after a while. Yeah, and then, like, by the ending, it's like, whoa, this thing happened, and the bad guy, I kind of knew from the start who the bad guy would be. I was buddy reading this with my mom, and she didn't believe me at first, but I ended up being right. But, yeah, so the bad guy, if you've read a lot and stuff, might be kind of easy to see. But anyways, we got to the end of this book. It was fine. So my mom and I started the second book, Tilt, and let me just tell you, that book was nothing but chaos on steroids. It was insane. Literally, like, things would happen. Like, I mean, at least we weren't going around in circles with questions anymore. But now random events were just happening, and, like, chaos was just ensuing. And these characters are just running here, there, and everywhere, and we don't know why. The villain keeps changing. Amazingly enough, the villain keeps changing who the villain is. It makes no sense why they're all fighting. It makes no sense why now basically the carousel horses are rebelling and basically want to break free of human control, which is kind of strange because they don't turn into actual horses. I mean, they're horses, but they don't turn into, like, real live flesh and blood horses when they come alive, which is kind of what I thought they would do from the description. But they don't. They basically just become walking, talking carousel horses. So, you know, they look the same as a carousel horse, and they're like actual wood horses, walking, talking horses, walking around. It's a fine concept, but the problem was then they wanted to do world domination. Why? They're carousel horses. I don't get it. But yeah, anyways, that happened, and then we were just running here, there, and everywhere. There was this weird love triangle thrown in the middle that made no sense. Characters were thrown in and out that made no sense. There were too many characters. A lot of them didn't even need to be there. It was insane. Literally, my mom and I got to like 63% in Tilt, and then we were just like, what is this? Because I actually looked ahead. So this is going to be kind of spoilery for this series because I don't know how else to talk about it without spoilers. But, so, I'm going to keep them to a minimum, but do know there might be a few minor spoilers sprinkled throughout. Anyways, I got so bored with Tilt and so confused and so annoyed because it just kept going in circles and going everywhere. So, I read ahead in Tilt. We got to like 63% or so, and then I read ahead to the end. And basically, our main character, Charlotte, she got, in the second book, she got, like, magical abilities. And then she basically got turned into this, like, magic-sucking creature. There's a lot more... Actually, there's not many more details to it in the books because there aren't any details in these books about what is going on. So, yeah, so that happened. That's literally how the book ended. She got turned into this magic-sucking monster. And they don't know how to fix her. So then literally, at the beginning of the third book, Spin, basically that book, I literally skim-read the whole thing because I was so confused, so frustrated, and I just wanted to see what the heck was going on and where this thing ended without, wanting to read the entire thing word for word. So, I started Spin, or at least I started skimming it, and literally then, they somehow figure out how to keep Charlotte from being a magic-sucking monster, and she loses her magic. Why? Why did you give a character magic that made no sense in the second book, only to then take it away in the third book and make her a regular human again? Why didn't you just leave her as a regular human the whole time? The fact that she had magic in the second book made absolutely no sense. It didn't even need to be there. Why are we doing this? I don't know. Nobody knows. I'm not even sure the author knows, but she writes well. The story just had no plot, no progression, characters didn't grow any, and it was frustrating. And it was just basically things going in circles on steroids, basically. That's all it was. Now, if I was younger and read this, if I read this series when I was 12, I probably would have loved it. It has magical horses, adventure, and all that. Do I like it now as a 20-something-year-old? No. Because I find I want something that makes a little more sense. And this did not make sense. So, anyways, back to Spin. Basically, Charlotte is not a soul-sucking monster anymore. She's not a magic user anymore. The carousel horses still want world domination for whatever reason. And apparently, the whole premise of the very first book was kind of to bring back magic into the world by waking the carousel horses up. So then we go to Spin, the very end book, and we basically come to the conclusion that magic is evil, and we need to now get rid of magic for the rest of our lives. So why did we bring it back if it was so bad to begin with? And some of these characters that now we have more characters running around who are potential villains, because everybody apparently turns out to be a villain in this series. Because apparently those new characters knew magic was evil to a certain extent. So why in the world would they want to bring the carousel horses alive, bring back magic, if they knew magic was evil and this whole scenario was going to happen? Just what? I was so confused by the end of this. I was so ticked. It has a happy ending. I'll give it that much. But what was the point? What was the message behind this? What were we saying? What? I just don't get it. So, yeah, if you have younger readers or younger people in your life who you're trying to get into reading and you need a fast-paced book that will hold their attention, this series will do that. It is not badly written. It is crafted, at least like prose-wise, very well. Character development is pretty much zero. Plot progression, the plot progresses at a chaotic rate. It progresses, but does it progress in a notable, reasonable manner? No. So make of that what you will, but yeah. I recommend this for younger readers. Anything older than, or people who don't really read much, they might enjoy it because they might not look at it more technically. I'm just more of a reader who tends to look at things a little more technically. Also, I think that also might be because I'm an author, so I tend to just notice these things more now, but since I write them, but this didn't work for me, and I'm so disappointed because I really, really wanted to like this, but anyways, I didn't. So, I gave Lift 3.5 stars. I gave Tilt 3, even though I technically DNF'd it because it's not badly written, like I said. It just wasn't for me. And Spin, I didn't actually rate it all on Goodreads because I technically didn't read it. I skimmed the entire thing. I mean, I technically could probably list it as read, but I didn't. I kind of lumped my review of Tilt and Spin onto Tilt's review, so if you want more thoughts on that, that's where both of them are, but pretty much I DNF'd both of those books, and I don't know what I'm going to do with this book for now. I'm going to hold on to it for now. I'm so disappointed, but because this had a ton of potential. I really liked the idea of the mysterious carousel in the woods, and it comes alive, and then there's magic and stuff. I mean, it sounds so cool. And I thought we were just going in a certain direction, and it didn't go in that direction. I was so disappointed. So, yeah. So, on to more disappointing reads. I also buddy read this trilogy with my family. Yeah, and I don't have pictures to show. I'm sorry about the covers and stuff, so I'm sorry about that. But this is the Art Mages of Lore trilogy by Jordan Rivet. I'd never read anything by this author before, but these were very interesting sounding. It's basically Robin Hood retellings with art magic. So, the very first book is Curse Painter, the second one is Stone Charmer, the third one is Voice Mage. So, these are all like the titles and correspond to different artistic magical abilities in each book. And in Curse Painter, the very first book, we are following Briar. She is basically just trying to start a new life. She is a curse painter. Basically, when she paints a painting using her magic, she can like make things happen through her paintings. Like she can say if she say you want a wall destroyed, say in a house, like you're doing a demolition, she can paint a picture on it, and literally that painting then we will destroy the wall. It will break it down based on what painting she is doing. Or if you need to fly across a river, that is an example they use in a book. And when she paints on the object that you need to move, it will then like lift and float and stuff like that for as long as the painting stays active. The magic kind of went over my head a bit, which I'm not a fan of because I like magic systems to at least make somewhat sense that I can figure it out. The art magic didn't really make much sense in the series, but I digress. Anyways, we're following Briar. She's a curse painter. She's just trying to basically live a like honest life, even though technically her magic is more the destructive kind. And so an accident happens when she's trying to do a job for somebody, and she is noticed by Archer, who is kind of like an outlaw in the area, and he notices her abilities, and he's like, hey, I want to hire you for a job. We need to rescue somebody who is kidnapped, and in order to get through the magical defenses around this like fortress that she is locked up in, we need your abilities to destroy these like other magical barriers around it. We need your curse painting to do that. So Briar agrees, and they kind of just set off on this adventure to save basically Archer's kidnapped friend. That is the basic premise of the very first book. I really enjoyed the first book. I gave the first book 4 stars. Curse Painter is very good. And it acts as a standalone. Literally, if you're interested in it, I would only recommend the first book. But the way it ends as a standalone, and you get like the first chapter of the second book as like a preview at the very end of it, and you can literally read that and like see that as the ending, which is kind of how I wish I'd done it. But anyways, yeah, this is a Robin Hood retelling, like I said, and the very first book has a very Robin Hood feel to it. It feels like a fun adventure. We're just going around, we're trying to be better people because like Briar's curse painting and Archer being an outlaw, it's not necessarily, you know, what you would call a good citizen's job. But they're trying to do their best in their own ways, through their own methods. And I really liked both characters. I thought they grew very well in the first book. The other outlaws, there were 4 other outlaws. I was okay with a couple of the guys were just fine. I didn't really particularly like Gemma. I thought she was fine at first, but then I got really irritated with her by the end of the book. She kind of annoyed me. And then the other guy who was there, Esteban, I really liked him. He was just kind of the grumpy old dude. I don't know, I liked him. He was a voice mage, so he kind of had the magical kind of connection thing to like Briar and stuff. So, I liked Curse Painter. I thought it was a very good book, very good standalone. Had a lot of action, had a lot of adventure, had some romance. It was overall a really fun book. Then we get into Stone Charmer. That is the second book, basically. In this one, the outlaws are tasked with finding this Stone Charmer, this guy who can make stone come to life, like statues that he makes and stuff like that, because their enemy from the first book wants to find him and like recruit him or force him to work for him or something like that, and he's like a power-hungry jerk who's trying to take over, so they don't want that, so they go to find him. Originally I gave Stone Charmer 3 stars, except when I thought about it more, I dropped it to 2 stars. This book was so boring. Literally, most of the book, we traveled, we tried to convince this guy to come with us, but he was kind of an irritant. I really didn't like him either. The Stone Charmer dude, I really didn't like him. He was just so annoying. And then, when they finally do leave, he then ends him and Briar up in a situation where it's just like, now we're in an even worse situation than we were in before, and then he's just like, oh, we can leave now, and she's just like, are you kidding me? We're stuck here. And he was so aggravating. And then, also, there was some weird not really miscommunication. Archer didn't tell Briar something that she needed to know for, like, really selfish reasons. He wanted to make sure she didn't leave, and it did not fit his character at all. The author literally just put it in there to have stupid drama. It was so dumb. I hated it. So anyways, this author writes awesome action scenes, though, which is kind of goes into the third book. And also, at the end of the Stone Charmer, mild spoiler alert, she adds in this weird Sleeping Beauty element. Why? Why did we need this? It was a Robin Hood retelling. Why do we need Sleeping Beauty in there? I don't know. Nobody else does either. Anyways, so, yeah. Anyways, then we go to Voice Mage, which is the third and final book. I questioned whether the author knew where she was going with all this, because I didn't know anymore. I thought we were defeating the bad guy from the first 2 books. But then we went to a completely different area, mainly because of the Sleeping Beauty element that the second book ended in. We needed to get rid of it. So we'll just go to this place so we can get this random character that we don't even need, who's also a voice mage. If the author wanted to develop a voice mage more, she could have developed Esteban more. She didn't need to bring in this useless, pointless other character who I didn't even like, because she was rather stupid and rather just stupid. Stupid works for her. Anyways, it was weird. And then we went there. We were doing that. So Archer's in one place. Briar and Esteban are in another place. They're trying to do whatever in their city. Get support or whatever. It doesn't really work anyway. So whatever. That was stupid. And then they got this voice mage that we didn't even need. Whatever. Then Archer's trying to do his thing. And then eventually they get back to join back up to do the final battle thing. Technically, I didn't really care anymore. There was no more character development. It's like they ceased growing as of, like, even the second book, they had more character growth. I would say the third book is like they ceased growing completely as characters. The plot, I had no idea where we were going 99% of the time. I didn't really know where the author's going, which is fine. You don't need to know where an author's going with their plot. But it needs to make somewhat of sense. At least when the reveal part of it should be like, oh, okay. When you look back at it all, it should be like, this makes sense. Okay, I can see where this is going now. This made absolutely no sense. I don't even know why we were here. So, there is that. There were pointless characters. The ending was so stupid. It was so dumb. Basically, like, the main characters are going to do great things, but they're just gonna wait until this other person can take over eventually, and then they're just gonna go hide in the woods. Why? I didn't like this book. I probably should give it a 1 star, but but the author writes really good action scenes. That is literally the only reason Voice Mage got 2 stars. And I'm tired and I don't want to talk about it anymore. So we're just going to move on to the next book, which is so much better. Okay. Namaste. We're going to calm down because I did not like those books. Okay, I probably shouldn't have started with those because now I'm like, but anyways. We're going to go to a much calmer, nicer, better book, and that is Turret. by Camille Peters. This is like the 8th book in the Kingdom Chronicles series. I have not read any of the other books in the series, and this works perfectly fine as a standalone. So I would say you could probably read them out of order. Considering I read book 8, that would probably give you a clear indication. Anyways, this is a Rapunzel retelling, and we follow Princess Gemma. She's basically got trapped in a magical tower due to, she has like an illness type thing, that kind of, I guess her mother decided, this doesn't look good on the royal family that you have this disease, so I'm going to lock you in this magical tower forever, and you're going to stay here. So, because key mother points there. Anyways, so Gemma has been living there with her guard Quinn and her lady's maid for like, I forget how many years. Upwards to like 5 years, I think it was. Anyways, the magical at least the magic of the tower seems to be dissipating because the tower like used to move to different locations. Now it's not moving anywhere. Certain things about it, like doorways, are disappearing. Certain rooms are disappearing. Their stores are not being replaced like they used to. So it's very possible that they will have to leave the tower soon, just because out of necessity. But the problem is Gemma is very afraid to leave. She's been locked up there for so long that she's basically a prisoner now, and a prisoner in her own mind to the outside world. And this is basically her story of overcoming her fears, her internal struggles, and having to leave her tower, her physical tower, but also leaving the tower of her mind and being able to move forward. And she also kind of has this cute, it's not really forbidden, but it's almost romance with her guard Quinn, but he's got secrets of his own he's not telling her, and things like that happen. This is a very slow book. When I first started, I was in a weird headspace at the time, so it took me a little bit to get into it, but once I did, this book has so much emotion, so much depth. I love it. I adore this book so much. I adore these characters. Gemma is an amazing protagonist. I've found myself so much in her, and just what she goes through and what she learns and just how she grows stronger over time. Quinn is an absolute dear. I really love this book. There's really no high action at all. There's like one confrontation with like a bad person with magic at the end, but that's pretty much it. It's a very slow, it's a very chill book, but it's more a character study or more internalizations of how to break free of your own mental constraints and stuff. And I love it. I love this book so much. This book made me nearly cry, like, throughout the whole thing. And I don't do that. When I read books, I don't normally cry over books anymore, but this one did it, and I really don't know what else to say. How is it I can rant for like minutes upon minutes about a book I don't like, but a book I love, I don't know what to say. I don't know, but I highly recommend this book. So yeah, if you like Rapunzel, if you like different, just a slower type of fantasy, fairy tale retelling, but with a lot of depth to it, I would highly recommend this book. And I'm definitely going to be trying more by Camille Peters. I'd read one other book by her before. I forgot about it. I think I mentioned in one other video that this was the only book I read by her before, but that is incorrect. I have read another one. It was called The Beast and the Enchantress. It's part of the Villains Ever After series. So I read that one, and I really liked that one too. So, which is rare, because that one was Beauty and the Beast. So, really loved this one. I gave this one 5 stars. Okay, the next one I have to talk about. This is a weird book. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. And if you've been anywhere like on Instagram or Goodreads or anything, and you follow anybody who does a lot of speculative fiction, you've probably seen this series. That is Between Jobs by W.R. Gingle. This is the first book in the City Between series. This is urban fantasy. This is set in Australia. The author's Australian, so it's set in Australia. And we follow our main character. We actually don't know her name. But she is called Pet, and she basically is squatting in her parents' house because they were murdered several years ago. There's so many odd years ago, and she's been squatting in their house ever since until she's 18, so she can be old enough to buy it. But the problem is, it gets put under police scrutiny. Why? Because there's a dead body hanging on the power lines across the street at the neighbor's house. Yeah, that's awkward. So now there's like an investigation going on, and then these 3 interesting individuals show up and basically claim Pet's house. And they happen to be fae and a vampire. So things are getting weird because apparently that murder across the street, that wasn't normal. And apparently there's been a guy going around, or at least some kind of a fae between kind, or behind kind they call him, who has come from this place called Behind, which is like a magical realm, and he comes over and apparently he murders humans. It's a little sketchy on what he does. So basically these two fae, this vampire, take over a pet's house and they discover Pet and they're just like, oh, well, this is a cute little human. We'll keep it as a pet. Hence her name. So, and this is just basically her adventure with her 3 psychos, as she calls them. And it is weird. I will give it that. This book is very bizarre. You have to go into it with a very open mind and be willing to not have answers as of this point. This book has 11 books in the series, I believe. So you have to go into it being willing to roll with the oddness a little bit. It took me a little bit to get into it because the author's writing style is slightly different than what I was reading at the time. So it took me a bit to get into it, but I really enjoyed it when I did. It is weird, though. It is very, very bizarre. I don't quite get all the behind, between stuff. I still don't quite get all that, but I am willing to suspend disbelief and go with it for now. The characters are what really shine. Pet is a sassy little sarcastic genius, and I love her. The vampire who, how do you say his name? It's Korean. So, and he actually speaks Korean throughout the whole thing. The vampire, I wonder if I can find, and it's like actually written in Korean words. I don't know what he says most of the time because I don't know Korean, but I kind of got the gist of what he was talking about by the way other people answered him. Pet doesn't understand Korean either. So, Jin Young, I believe, that's the vampire. He's a Korean vampire, and the two fae are Zero and Athalius. I'm not sure how to say his name either. Athalius. Anyways, the characters are what really shine in this book. They are such an odd bunch, but they all like mesh so well together, and I love them. I just really enjoy these characters. It's such a weird book, and they're such weird characters, but it all like fits, and it's just, yeah. So if you're willing to overlook some kind of maybe some plot points that don't exactly make sense yet because it's the first book of the series, and you really want to follow some weird, wacky characters, I would highly recommend this book. Do be warned, the fight scenes do get a little bloody. It's a little bit more, it's like the gore isn't really described, but it's described slightly enough that more sensitive viewers might find it gross, so bear that in mind. There are a little bit more details of like blood slicking floors and like stuff like that when they're fighting, so bear that in mind if you want to read this book. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to when I can continue the series. And the next one I have to talk about is another, did I say what I rated this book? I rated it 4 stars. Okay, so I don't know if I said that before or not. Anyways, the next book is The Earth Treader by Alyssa J. Zavalianos. That's her name. I'm sure I butchered that. First off, this cover is gorgeous. Let us admire the cover. The spine's gorgeous, and so is the back. So, anyways, this one is basically your classic quest story fantasy, and I loved it. Basically, our main character, Rilla, she is just out taking a walk on her, I think it's on her birthday? No, it's not. I think it's just, she's just out for a walk one day, and then she comes across this cat who basically tells her that these stones need to be found. She is an earth treader, which is basically a person who has magical abilities that connect to the earth, like she can make dirt move, she can make basically nature-like elements move at her will, and she is tasked with finding these 5 magical stones that like bind the Earthen Crest Kingdom, but this one guy who's like rising himself from the dead, he wants to control them all, and if he does, there will just be endless darkness on the land. So she has to go on a quest with her talking cat friend Moo to find these stones and to basically unite them to defeat the bad guy in the end. It's very classic fantasy, it's very fun, and she meets a lot of people on the way, and there's a little bit of romance, and there's lots of adventure, and she just really learns to overcome her own fears. And I really, really enjoyed this. I was actually surprised my library had this book. This is an indie print book, and I wasn't even sure they'd have it, but I looked it up and they did, surprisingly. And I really love the map in it. This is the map. It's so cool looking. Anyways, I really enjoyed this book. I really liked Rilla as a character and just what she went through. I love the author's writing style, how she just makes nature come alive. This really made me... This is the type of book and the type of story that made me fall in love with fantasy to begin with. It was just that adventure and that sense of the unknown, and the sense that you can literally do anything. You can have courage and you can just grow and change to these adventures, and I love that about this. There's multiple points of view. I love all the characters. Kaz is basically our main male lead, and he is amazing as well. He's basically kind of falls into the tragic hero vibe, and he's great. I love him. I love Rilla. She just grew a ton, and yeah, this made me feel very connected to basically my roots of enjoying fantasy to begin with. It's just has that life and that energy all its own, and I like that it's very connected to like nature and the trees and stuff like that, and the way she described nature and stuff. It was just very beautiful, and I really, really recommend this book. This is a hidden gem I think more people need to know about. And on that note, the author also wrote a short story epilogue. This cute little book, look how cute this little thing is, even though it looks kind of ridiculous next to this one. This is From the Mountains to the Valley. It's an epilogue to the story, and it's just a little short story, and I think it's so cute. It's so pretty. I just love this little book. It's so cute. Anyways, but yeah, I can't really talk much about this because it's the epilogue. It will give things away for how this book ended. But just know when you finish reading this book, if you love it as much as I did, there is an epilogue, and it's really adorable, really cute. And I gave both of these books 5 stars. And, okay, hopefully this doesn't take too much longer because this video is getting a little long. But I have 2 more books to talk about, and the first one is probably another one I'm not going to know how to talk about much. And that is The Enchanted Wreath by Brittany Fitzgerald. This is the third and currently final book of the Neverland Fairy Tales novella series. These are just standalone novellas of retellings of lesser known fairy tales, and this is a retelling of The Enchanted Wreath. In it, we follow Giselle. Basically, her life is a living nightmare. Since her stepmother and stepsister moved in, they have this weird unnatural beauty. It seems like her stepmother has basically brainwashed her father into not caring about Giselle anymore, and she basically is just left to run things herself, almost kind of like a Cinderella situation, except the fact that the stepmother does do her own work, and she's literally actually worse than the stepmother in Cinderella, believe it or not. Because Giselle shows some kindness to these little birds in a rainstorm one day, and she gets blessed with this wreath-like flower crown. Basically, that is fairy blessed, and she gets that, and her stepmother does not like that. And the wreath itself plus Giselle catches the eye of Prince Julian, who is the crown prince of the kingdom, and he gets to know Giselle a bit more, and they fall in love. But then things are going badly, because the stepmother finds out, and oh boy, do things get bad. And that is literally the story, because literally then Giselle and Julian have to fight this like dark magic, and they could potentially lose each other through the whole process, if not their kingdom. And this book is amazing. I love it. I love the design of it because each chapter heading looks like this, and it's just really pretty inside and out, and I love the story. These characters, at least Giselle and Julian, are amazing. The stepmother and the stepsister I wanted to throw out a window. Giselle's father I wanted to throw off a cliff. Just that man irritated me, and like when Julian at one point was just like giving him kind of like the side-eye verbal smackdown, but also being polite about it, I was just like, yes, do that, because he deserves it. Oh my goodness, he was so horrible to his own daughter. Anyways, Giselle and Julian, they're just amazing characters. They're just amazing character. I don't know what else to say. I love this story. I've never heard of this fairy tale before, so I don't know who originally wrote The Enchanted Wreath, but I love this retelling. It gets kind of dark at some points, very much at the end, very typical of Brittany Fitzgerald to get really dark before the light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, and these characters go through the ringer, and it's just amazing. And I really also liked her emphasis at the end of how, even though life can change us through certain events or certain things, we are still people who are worthy. Sorry. Been talking too much. Anyways, we're still people who can be worthy of love and respect, and just that even though we've changed, that doesn't make it bad, what we've gone through. It just makes us maybe come out a little different at the end. And I really liked that because I had a personal struggle years ago when I was a teenager that really changed my personality on certain levels and stuff. Like, I used to be just really extremely happy-go-lucky and stuff. I'm not so much anymore, mainly because of that event. And I was always felt a little insecure about that, because always wondering, like, if there was something wrong with me, or if, like, even though I knew there was no way I could go back to being that person again, like, if there was something wrong with me because I couldn't. And I just really liked that she established in this book that it's okay that hard things in your life have changed you to a certain degree, because that doesn't make you a bad person or a person who isn't worthy of love or respect or anything like that. In fact, you might also be more of that, more so, because it's just life changed you, but it didn't knock you down and get rid of you. You know what I mean? And I just really like that that emphasis was in this book, because, yeah, that does happen. That sometimes you just have no control over it, but you can still be the best person you can be, and even if you're slightly different than where you were, you're still you, and that's the best thing possible. And I just really like the emphasis on this, and I just love this book. Like, very rarely do I hug a book after I read it and squeal endlessly, inwardly, because I don't want my family asking questions. But, yeah, but this book did that. Like, every time I look at it, I just get giddy. I mean, except for the dark parts, I'm not giddy then. I was just more like, no. Yeah, so this. If you want the whole myriad of emotions from, like, giddy to, like, almost screaming at the book, and read this one, because it's amazing. Even if you go through all the pain and suffering, it is an amazing book, and I just smacked myself in the head. Okay, we're done. Okay. Okay, one more book I have to mention, which I also adored. And I have Reese to thank for this, because she kept talking about it on her channel, so I was like, okay, I gotta read this one soon. And I did, and I loved it, and that is 1,000 Heartbeats by Kira Cass. And this is a new release. Probably a lot of you have seen this going around on BookTube and stuff, and in other places. Like, I'm sure it's going around on Instagram too. But, yes, this is a fantasy, non-magical romance, and basically we follow Princess Annika? Annika. I believe that's what I've been calling her. I don't know if that's correct. But Princess Annika, she's just doing what she can to keep her kingdom afloat. Unfortunately, she does have to marry this guy she doesn't love, but she's willing to do it for the good of her kingdom. That is, until she meets Lennox. Lennox is a guy living in kind of like this rebel faction in a different kingdom. He wants to overtake her kingdom because it used to be, at least according to him, it used to be his. Or at least his his ancestors and stuff. So they're coming to take it back. And they clash over that, because obviously she's not going to want to give up her beloved kingdom to him. And he doesn't exactly want her, he wants her kingdom, so that is the issue there. So, and he has to get through her to do it, because she is like, you ain't taking my kingdom. And he's just like, but it's our kingdom. So, yeah, who are you to say I can't take it back? So, they kind of butt heads at this when they meet. Well, it's a weird meeting considering he kidnaps her, but, there's that little hiccup. Then, things happen from there, and they end up falling in love. Yeah, it sounds really unbelievable that they would, but really, the author managed to make it work. And I loved this book. I've read Kira Cass's books before. I tried to read the selection, and it was okay. I DNF'd that one mainly because I didn't really like just the topic of the whole selection, where it was just, a bunch of girls fighting over a guy. Even that part wasn't what bothered me. It was more the cat fighting between all the girls and the fact that there was a love triangle in that book. That's what killed it for me. Also, I didn't really care much for the main character, but that's neither here nor there. So, and then I read The Siren, which I do remember liking, but after looking through the book again, I'm thinking to myself, I need to reread this and see if my true opinion on it still stays. But anyways, so this was the third book I've read by her now, and I really loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed both characters. I really liked how she crafted both Lennox and Annika to have their reasons that made sense for wanting the kingdom and stuff, for doing what was best by their people, even if they didn't agree with things like that. There is a little bit, some people might call it that technically Annika is cheating on her betrothed when she does fall in love with Lennox. It's a little complicated for that, but I did think the author wrote it in a way that didn't seem like that, because Annika was willing to give up Lennox to marry this other guy for her kingdom, because she loved her kingdom that much. So there was that in there. So some people might be a little bit hesitant on that. I actually didn't even... normally I would care about something like that, which is why I'm pointing it out. But I didn't really, and it's not that I didn't care about it, I just thought the author handled it in a way that it made sense for the characters, and it was very much a sacrificial thing when Annika was just like, no, I can't be with you, even though I love you, I have to be with this other guy for my kingdom's sake. And so I did appreciate that. So, but it's in there a little bit. Beyond that, there's like 0 language. I think hell is used more to describe a character's situation twice, and then I think once the way it's used is more like a swear word type, but it's used in like a dialogue thing in Lennox's head. So it's kind of like, okay, you can take that as you will, but it's usually like 3 times in the whole book. So there's no other language, there's no sexual content or anything like that. This is just a really clean, really sweet romance. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed both the characters' journeys and how everything was resolved. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me was the author's emphasis on love and forgiveness, and how that truly worked, because like literally there is like a forgiveness plot line in here that is so powerful. I mean, like I would be hard pressed to find that in some Christian fiction books nowadays. Not gonna lie, the way she wrote love and forgiveness in here, and just how those coincide, and this was very much showing Christ-like love and forgiveness in this story, and it blew me away, because you would not normally find that in a secular book. Though if you do read the acknowledgments to the very end, Kira Cass is a Christian, so, and she does thank God at the end of it for us, so it is no surprise to me that she has that in her stories as a Christian. But man, this was powerful. I really, really liked that, just the emphasis. And then she used other characters to show what love wasn't, even though they said they loved like a particular character or something. I really loved how she used them without beating you over the head with it, just how showing those characters through their actions and stuff that this is not love. This is like obsession or possession or whatever it was that she was showing, and she used different characters to show that, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, that was literally, aside from the characters, I think just her portrayals of love and forgiveness was what really hit me the most with this book, and I just really enjoyed this. I would definitely read this again. I could see this as like a book I would read if I'm feeling down or something. So yeah, I guess you would call that a comfort read. I'm still not quite sure if I have any of those, but but yeah, I really love this book, and it's beautiful. I really love the design of this book too. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, prompts to the marketing team and all that, and just the cover designer, the book itself, the author. This is an amazing book. I really like it. So 5 stars for me. Obviously, everybody's opinions are going to differ, but that's true of any of these books. And yeah, those are all the books I have read recently. And I hope you enjoyed my rants. I hope you enjoyed my giddy fangirling, and I hope you enjoyed even the ones that I didn't have a ton to say about. Yeah, let me know down below in the comments what you guys have been reading recently, and if you've read any of these books, and I will talk with you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!